Hey guys, I hope everybody had a good spring break. For today, just sit in your old seats. I will have a new seating chart tomorrow when I'm back. And we are also going to skip the warm up today. I will have new warm up sheets for you tomorrow. So you should have grabbed your notes on the way in called Measures of Center. We are going to start a new unit today. But before we do that, Mr. Carter is going to pass back your geometry tests from before break. So let me just remind you that if you got below an 80, remember you are allowed to retest. Your new score on the retest will be averaged with your old score for up to an 80. And before you can retest, you got to fill out one of those yellow test corrections forms. Remember, I keep them on the tall table by the window. There's a big stack of the yellow test correction forms, so help yourself. And you have until the end of the day Friday. So you have this whole week to get the corrections and the retest done. You'll just have to come before school or go time in order to retest. All right, you can pause this video while Mr. Carter passes back the tests. All right, so our new unit that we are starting today is called Data Analysis. So this is a pretty fun unit because we get to look at all sorts of data sets, so all sorts of information and sets of numbers. And there's a lot of situations involving sports, like this one that we're going to look at. There's situations that involve weather, or we could look at data of our class, of our school, of the state of Texas, of the world, all sorts of interesting data sets. So we're going to start by looking at this one. These are the number of points scored by LeBron James in each game this season. So I looked this up online. I listed out how many points he scored in all of the games so far. So I want you guys to look at these numbers for a second and think about what you notice. Like if there's anything that sticks out to you about these numbers. It's kind of a lot to look at. I would say for me, I feel like a lot of the numbers are in the 20s. He scores in the 20s a lot. Sometimes he scores in the 30s. Sometimes he scores in the teens. Looks like he had 42 in one game. That might be his highest. Not sure what the lowest is. Maybe 10. I don't think there's any single digits. So that's just kind of what I see when I look at it. But again, there's a lot of numbers here to process. So what we're going to do is we are going to learn some ways to summarize this data. So we don't have to really dig into all of it. We can just kind of look at a summary of it. So the first thing we're going to use to summarize it is the average, which in math we call it the mean. So this is something you see all the time if you're into sports. Basically, the average is the points per game that LeBron James scores. So he scores 25 points per game. So that doesn't mean he scores 25 points every game. Sometimes he scores more than that. Sometimes he scores less than that. But on average, it's kind of like, the midpoint. He typically scores around 25 points per game. So that's a good way to summarize all of his points. Another way to summarize the data would be to find the median, which is the exact middle number. But first, you would have to put these numbers in order from least to greatest. You would have to line them all up, and then you would find what's exactly in the middle, which is 24.5, which is very close to the average. That makes sense because the mean and the median are typically pretty close to each other. And then another thing we can use is the mode. The mode is the number that shows up the most. So basically the most common number. So the mode of this data is 18. That means 18 shows up more than any other number. So if I'm looking at it, looks like there might be like 4, maybe 5 18s in there. So that's the most common number. Actually, I think I see 6. So the mode would be 18. So those three are what we're going to focus on today, the mean, the median, and the mode. Those are called measures of center because they kind of describe the center of the data. And then later this week, we're going to look at a couple of other things. One of them is the maximum, that's the highest number, which is 42. The minimum, which is the lowest number, that's 10. And then the range is the highest minus the lowest. So 42 minus 10 is 32. So all of these things at the bottom kind of give you a snapshot of the data. So we are going to get into the notes. I'm going to do my best. I'm writing on the screen, so my handwriting probably will not be great. But let me give it a try. It says, a measure of center is a way of summarizing the data by providing a central point of data. So we're going to look at the mean, the median, and the mode. So first, in order to find the mean, which is the average, you need to find the sum of all the data points. And you guys know the word sum, that just means add. So you're going to add up the numbers, and then you are going to divide by the total number of data points. So for example, it says find the mean of these numbers, 3, 7, 8, 4, 4. I would add them up first, and then I would divide by 5 because there's 5 numbers. So first I'm going to add them up. 7 plus 3, that's 10, plus 8 is 18, and then 4 and 4, that's another 8, would be 26. So the sum is 26, and then since there's 5 numbers, I'm going to divide by 5. 5 goes into 26 5 times, remainder 1. So I can add a decimal and bring down a 0, and 5 fits into 10 2 times. So the mean, or the average of those numbers, is a 5.2. Which that makes sense if you look at the numbers. Some of the numbers are lower, some of the numbers are higher. It's kind of like the midpoint. So the median would be next. That's where we're finding the exact middle. So it's usually pretty close to the average. But in order to find the exact middle, we are going to first order the data points from least to greatest. So let me do that down here. I'm going to start with 3, then 4, 4, 7, 8. And then you find the middle number. I like to cross off the outer ones. So those are the outer ones. Then work your way in, and you can see 4 is in the middle. And then sometimes there's 2 middle numbers. So in that case, you just find the average or the mean of the 2 numbers. I think there will be an example of that down below. All right, so we have the mean was 5.2, the median was 4. The mode is the number that shows up the most often. And you can remember that pretty easily because the word mode sounds like most. So just think of mode, most. This one is super easy because all you have to do is look at the numbers and find which one shows up more than the others. So here I see 2 4s, so the mode is 4. It shows up more than any other number. All right, so we got the mean is the average, the median is the middle, and the mode shows up the most often. So now we're going to practice finding the mean, median, and mode of this data. It says the table shows the prices of 6 different backpacks at Target. Find the mean, median, and mode of the data. All right, I am going to start with the mean. I want you guys to pause this video and try it yourself. Let me just remind you, first we're going to add up the numbers, and then we're going to divide by how many numbers there are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different backpacks. So add them up and divide by 6. Pause the video while you do that. All right, so if we add them up, 14 plus 24 plus another 24 plus 36 plus 40 plus 45, that would be 183. And then we're dividing by 6 because there are 6 numbers, 6 goes into 18 3 times. 6 can't fit into 3, but we can add a decimal, bring down a 0, and 6 fits into 30 5 times. So the mean would be 30.5. Which again, that makes sense looking at the numbers. It's kind of towards the middle. All right, let's see. Now the median, we're finding the exact midpoint. So first you have to put them in order from least to greatest, but I noticed that in the chart they're already in order. So I'm just going to cross off the ends, work my way in. All right, so in this case we have two numbers in the middle. We have 24 and 36. So basically we want to find what number is right in the middle in between 24 and 36. So if you can just do that in your head, go for it, because you just got to think of what's halfway between those numbers. If not, you're just finding the average or the mean of those two numbers. So you would add them together. 24 plus 36 is 60. And then there's two numbers, so you're dividing by 2. So it would be 30. Median is 30. Which makes sense. If you think about it, 30 is right in the middle of 24 and 36. All right, so the mean is 30.5, median is 30. The mode is the one that shows up the most often. Let me see. Looks like 24 is the only one that shows up more than once. So the mode is 24. All right, and then down here we have one more example. It says, below is a list of the number of points that Jack scored in his first 8 basketball games of the season. Find the mean, median, and mode of the data. All right, pause the video. I want you guys to try all 3 of these on your own. Try to find the mean, median, and the mode. So pause this and click play whenever you're ready to check it. All right, so to find the mean, that's the average. So I'm going to add them up and divide by how many numbers there are. So if I add them up, that's 72 is the sum. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. So 72 divided by 8, that is 9. All right, so the mean is 9. That means he scores about 9 points per game. The median is the middle, so I'm going to put them in order first. Let's see, I'll do that over here. 6, 6. I'm going to cross them off as I go so I don't repeat any. I see an 8 and a 9 and a 10, 10, 11, 12. All right, so I got them in order. I'm going to cross off the outer ones. 1, 2, 3. So I crossed off 3 from each side, and there are 2 numbers in the middle. So again, just like the last one, we want to think about what is halfway in between 9 and 10. Which, that's pretty simple. I'm not going to do any math for that. Right in between is 9.5 for 9.5. If you did want to do the math, you would just add them together and divide by 2. You're finding the mean. So 19 divided by 2 would be 9.5. And last but not least, the mode, the one that shows up the most. I noticed there's 2 6s and there's 2 10s. So we're going to put 6 and 10. They're both the mode because it's a tie. And sometimes you'll have a data set where there's just one of each number. So if that's the case, you can just say no mode. There's not always going to be one that shows up the most. So it's totally fine to have 2 modes or no mode at all. All right, so keep those in the notes section of your binder. And then you guys are going to have the rest of class to work on your homework. So your homework looks like this. There's going to be 5 data sets. You're finding the mean, median, and mode of each one. Use your notes to help you remember how to do each one of these. Make sure you're showing the work either on the paper or on the back of the paper or on scratch paper. And then whenever you're done doing the worksheet, then you can put your answers in Schoology. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.